everyone. Thanks for checking out the CB vlog here on YouTube. If you want to help us out, it's quite easy. You can just hit subscribe. That's all you have to do. It's really great. If you want to get involved a little more, though, and you want to come out and actually help make the show, you can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/commandersbrew. Of course, we've got our Discord server over there. You can get on there, be a part of it. There's other perks as well. And it just helps us make the show, build our decks for the main deck tech portion of the show. It's great. Check us out, patreon.com/commandersbrew. But thanks for watching, either way. But let's get into our topic today, which is our Arena Cube. Sean, we have been creating, between you and I, a cube that is playable on Magic Arena.
Uh-huh.
And we've been doing it where if you play limited at all, you've probably heard of this thing, or you draft on like an outside website, and then you export your draft deck over into Arena. And then if you have those cards, or if you can create those cards with wild cards on Arena, then you can play those decks on Arena. It's quite great. And this system is really good, and it is really fun, and it is really free. And it's great, and you can draft the current set, and you can draft like what we're doing, which is a cube. So and it's also just in case anyone's, I know, feeling bad about that, we might have talked about this before, it actually is great for Arena. They get people making playing on their app, and they also you do have to earn the wild cards to play it, so it actually makes you play the other portions of Arena as well. But I want to talk about what we're doing with our cube. You know us, we play Commander, that's our main thing. But we also do love limited, and cube is a really fun format where it's kind of like the powerful and like really like kind of expert level cards of Commander that we see mixed with the drafting from a limited set. So cube is great, and we've been thinking about it a lot lately. Am I right?
Yeah, it's one of those projects where, we were like, hey, let's put a cube together. And this was before Jumpstart came out on Arena. So, like, we had a smaller card pool, and we were like, what should red blue be? And we're like, how about this? And we tried it out. But then, since then, Jumpstart has come out. I took a significant break from it. But then we just started getting back into it and really digging deep. Yeah, this app that we use lets you draft with bots who are surely idiots.
Yeah, they're dumb as hell.
They're not good at drafting, but they at least kind of pick a color or two and try to stick with it. So it gives you a fair opportunity to just at least be like, well, I went for a deck and I think I have the pieces for it. It's pretty good feedback as a designer to see if it's at least viable. And once you go down that road, you're just like, ooh, I really wish this deck had an early drop that helped slow the game down so I can combat aggression, so I can get to my late game, which is where most of my deck wants to go. And then you're like, oh, this is the perfect card for it. It does this, it fits these archetypes. It's so fun.
It is really fun. And one thing I've been thinking about over the last couple of days, because we also actually, I think, came up with this before the actual Arena Cube too, right? Like we made this before the Arena Cube, just before it, perhaps?
I don't remember.
I think it was. At any rate, doesn't matter. People have been doing this too. There's other people who've been doing the exact same thing we're doing right now.
Oh yeah, you can find like pauper versions that don't use rares. You can find ones that are like already only like certain sets, but like, tweaked out a little bit, a couple of additions, all sorts of things. But ours is just sort of, well, how would you describe ours?
I don't know. We started out with it being kind of a medium level, like medium power, like we even in Arena, because Arena is obviously a pretty limited card pool. We're not talking about the same as like Paper Magic and Commander and stuff like that. We're talking about a pretty limited card pool of the last few sets that have been out, plus like at the time a handful of historic cards, or the historic format, which I think we only used like one or two of, if that. Like we used like not even, anyways.
Talrand.
But now it's a little different. Jumpstart brought a lot of stuff in. But it was pretty medium powered, and then it's because we wanted to build up the power slowly, because you don't want to just be introducing the most top powerful cards in the whole thing, and then have the rest of your cube like not be able to match up against that. That can create for it can create frustrating games and like not a lot of fun. Like think about the limited environments if you play limited where you've come up against like Tetzamok, like for example, is one of the great examples of this type of thing we're looking to avoid here, where it's like it's a card that's just unbeatable. It's like you have this card, you win the game. That is not a satisfying thing to happen in a game of Magic. It's really annoying.
Yeah, there's a lot of cards even in Arena that are significantly powerful enough that they warp any environment they're in. And we set out purposefully to avoid those.
Yeah.
We didn't go for those cards, even ones that on the surface maybe didn't seem like bonkers powerful, but cards that were, our rationale going in was we wanted to make the draft experience, the actual draft experience, to be very engaging with lots of interesting decision points, and we wanted the gameplay to be very interesting with lots of decision points. If everyone just tries to get Golos and Niv Mizzet and 5-color and do that, like there's that's super fun to do. That was the highlight of the Arena Cube in my opinion. I've watched some streamers do it. I didn't get a chance to play the Arena Cube that much myself, but seeing that happen is fantastic. But in a draft environment, watching people drafted, it's just like, well, this is not interesting. There's no, like, you know what you need to make it great, and you either get there or you don't. We wanted to make it so, like, there's good cards, but synergy is important, and if you're seeing the synergy, you gotta go for it. And maybe this card is flexible enough that you can't guarantee any wheels. That's another thing we wanted.
I think a lot of our philosophy about this cube can actually be kind of taken from Commander. First of all, the fun we're finding in it, I think, for you and I, is that we are building not just a deck here now, we're building a full set. Yeah. And it scratches the same itch if you've ever built a Commander deck. Like if you've ever brewed a deck, it's the same thing. You're looking for synergies, you're looking for interesting interactions, except that when you're doing it with a cube, you have to look across all colors and all types of decks, combo, aggro, mid-range, control. You have to look across all of that stuff, and you have to balance that. And there's a balance that you don't necessarily, you do when you're building a deck too. You need balance when it comes to like curve and things like that, right? Land is something you don't have to think about for cube quite in the same way. But so a lot of that's taken from Commander. This philosophy also of power level, and you would think like right away you put stuff like, yeah, man, throw Golos in there. We throw Teferi in there. We throw like all the best cards in Arena. The Ugin. Best cards. Ugin is one I've been thinking of so much. I'm just like, there's no way. I'm never putting that card in this cube in its current state, because it would just, like any relatively slow deck, it's just going to take Ugin off every time. It doesn't matter what colors you are. Who cares, right? So you want to balance the choices. You want to have there be some risk and reward. Which is, it's all part of deck building, deck brewing, and it's just kind of on this larger scale, and it is a lot of fun. Even kind of just as this exercise in our brains, we're doing it on a website and like keeping track of all of our cards, and like really it's kind of only the two of us ever playing any of the decks, because some of our friends don't have enough of the wild cards just yet, and we're not done the cube yet, so we're not totally ready to debut it to the public just yet, which we will do at some point. But anyways, it's scratching that itch for us, I think.
It's true. You want to talk about like design and like philosophies and like power level. We're in the middle of deciding whether or not God Eternal Kefnet belongs or not. Mm-hmm. This is the 2 blue. I think it's 4/5, and it flies. So it's a massive body for what you're paying for it, a 4/5 flyer for 4. You also can't get rid of it unless you counter it as it's being cast. or somehow
Or
pick it
like
out of their
mill it or
hand.
something. Yeah.
Mill it, sure, but if it ever lands, if you
Yeah.
ever exile it or destroy it, the owner gets to shuffle it, not shuffle it, gets to put it back in third from the top, so they will get Kefnet again. So it just leads to like that is extremely powerful, independent of your strategy, and for that reason, we're on the fence about it. Like it's kind of a like it's kind of a bore. It makes for a boring pick in whatever packet shows up. If you're blue, it's like card's great, should go on every blue deck. We kind of want to avoid that. It makes for boring. It's overall boring, and we also want to avoid matches where if it comes down, it's just like I'm okay if a certain deck has a hard time dealing with a threat,
Mm-hmm.
but every deck has a hard
Yeah.
time dealing with Kefnet.
Yes.
There's no like, unless you can, and I would even argue that like, well, maybe some aggro decks can get really low to the ground, get under Kefnet. So
Mm.
like before you get to Kefnet, it's 4 mana. The thing
It's
costs 4 mana.
It's exactly, that's the other thing. It's like it only costs four, and
Yeah.
just to like we didn't even consider putting in the other colors of these gods. We didn't
No.
consider putting the
Oketra.
Oketra. Are you kidding? Absolutely not. That card's insane.
Yeah.
Now we have put in recently. We put in a few higher powered cards than for example, like when we started. Like we're currently testing whether or not Baneslayer Angel is too good. We're also testing whether or not what was there was one other one that was like really we were really hesitant to
I
throw in
don't
there.
remember.
It's a black card, I think. And anyways, so Massacre Worm, another one.
Massacre Worm.
So like there's a lot of these things where it's like, but at least those cards can be answered. That's the thing. You got to make sure you have answers. So we're looking at this from like a designer, like a set designer perspective, which to me as normally is like a deck brewer and a commander player, is a really fun way to look at things, and to take that like back to Commander. You can like really see the reasoning for a lot of the designs we're seeing from Commander a lot, and it's also the reason though why you can kind of be upset with certain designs. Also, you're just like the ones we're talking about where it's like this is a perfect Arcane Signet is a card that is like, well, yeah, obviously every Commander player would love this card. It's incredible. It's perfect. It goes in every deck. And it's like, well, that's the problem with it though, is that every single Commander deck wants it and it goes in every deck. Like that's not good design. Like throwing in Ugin into our cube would not help it be better. It would objectively make it be more like you'd see that card every time. Every deck would basically take it. Obviously, the really low to the ground aggro decks wouldn't be interested in it, but like the way we've designed the cube is that's only a couple of decks, really. Like it's not like it's, you know what I mean? Like in the vintage cube, there's a few more where it's like you can put Ugin in there because the power level of other stuff is very high. But in our deck, that would be one of the top most powerful cards easily.
Yeah, you can kind of like a cube needs every card to be in a range of each other. If you have Ugin in the cube, which is undeniably an extremely powerful card, maybe it loses a point or two for its casting cost, but it's still extremely powerful. Every other card has to be at least, I don't know, 50% as good as it. I don't know. I'm making up these numbers, but like you can't have. Otherwise, it makes otherwise you'd be like, well, it makes other cards look bad, and you want all the cards. Like I think a perfectly designed cube, all of the cards look good, in some reason, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, not all decks want all cards, but every card looks good to someone at the table.
Yes, yeah, and if it looks good to everyone at the table, that's tough.
It's tough,
and it's also what it does to the draft portion of it, right? Which is something we don't obviously have to worry about in Commander. But if we're talking about the limited experience, we're talking about drafting and having a card, just a ubiquitous card that everyone would just first pick. It's like, well, that's boring.
Yeah,
that's boring. That's no fun, and then that's gonna warp your draft going forward. Like you could even start out with like 3 really good, like, man, I'm mono red. and then you pick like 3 like pretty strong cards for them, and you're like happy where this is going, and then Ugin shows up. I mean, not that that would happen. That would be like 4th pick Ugin. That's never going to happen. But like, let's say for some whatever reasons, 3 bots pass it to you, you would be like, okay, well, I'm taking Ugin. Like
Yeah, and
I'm no longer mono red.
or if you are, you're just focusing on only on the removal to stay alive long enough to land.
Yeah,
Ugin.
oddly enough,
That's
that
all.
is the way to beat Ugin. Yes. Anyways, yeah. So I don't know. It's been, man. It's been really. I've been really thinking about it a lot because it is scratching that itch that we, as I think deck brewers, get, and it's when I'm done my brewing for the show and I'm built a cool deck like we did this week, and we talked to Discord and everything. I'm like, okay, great, I've got my deck ready. This is fun. I can't wait to talk about it on the show. But then there's like a lot of time in between there where I'm not tinkering as much with that deck because I'm like, this looks solid to me. This looks fine. It's 100 cards or whatever, 60 cards out of 100, and I'm good. Whereas the cube is constantly calling my name, just being like,
Yeah.
"Are you sure Dovin's Acutity's good? Are you
Yeah.
sure? Are you sure you want it in there?"
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we have enough spell support to make Kilden Fiend a viable aggro card?
Yeah, exactly. What about yeah? What about that new card that's kind of like Guild Fiend, but it's +1/+1 counters? Yeah, a lot of that. Cube says a lot to you when when that's happening.
Yeah.
Anyways, I know it's not really about Commander, but it's something that I think if you're a brewer specifically, and if you've never thought about putting a cube together, even just as an exercise, even if you never truly get to sit down and play it in paper or anything, it's still actually a super fun exercise. And like we're saying, if you can get even just 1 or 2 people together, even 1 to 4 other people or whatever, you can do it online, and it can be it can, like Sean and I have played a bunch of games where we draft with the bots and then we just play against each other, and those games have been super fun. It's been great.
Yes. Thank you to Arena for making that possible,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I want to add an addendum to that. Like, if you're curious about designing cubes, I would recommend just going for it if you got some time to kill. It's super fun because
Oh yeah, tell them how we started this, because it was your idea, and it really did the trick. It got us going.
I don't know what you're alluding
You
to.
don't know what I'm talking about? Okay,
I
so
just wanted to.
say what you're gonna say, and I'll say it
I
after.
just wanted to suggest that, like, if you're curious to design a cube, but your barrier is that, like, well, I don't really have people to play with. I might not get online. We solved one of those by doing an arena only cube because I can just link up online and play decks that I've drafted with it. But the other barrier might be like, well, I won't get to draft it with people. And again, that barrier is a little bit solvable online as long as you can get people together. You can 8 people on this third-party website, Heroku app. You can draft your cube. You can upload the list and draft it. You might not get to play it. All the people might not have all the wildcards on Arena. That's what we run into sometimes. But it's so fun to design a cube and just draft it with idiot bots, and just you can learn so much and be like, oh, this deck doesn't come together because XYZ, and there you go. Like, that's a fun, like if that's the fun part to you, you're in. The internet has you covered.
What I was gonna say was that what I thought you were gonna mention here, and this will be the last thing we say though, is it is a daunting task because the smallest cube is going to be 360 cards, right? That way, 8 drafters can get in there and draft all the cards, and that's every cube being drafted. There's like a 540 cube, which tends to be the next step up, and then there's a bigger one, which is the 720, which I guess they do that. They go up by 180s or whatever. Anyways, yeah, so it's a daunting task. 360 cards is a lot to think about. And then when you sit down and you're like, well, what do I want green, red to do? Or what do I want green to look like? Or what do I want blue? Do I want 3 color things? Blah, blah, blah. What Sean suggested and what we did, and what I think is actually really, it like I said, it worked great, is we just quickly threw, like, and I mean quickly, like we just sat, it took us less than an hour, I'd say each maybe. We each took 5 of the guilds, and we just threw together what we thought was like cards for that guild that were good, that weren't OP, that weren't like Ugin level, Tetzamok level OP powerful stuff. But we just put together a cool guild deck. So I got Selesnya. So I was like, I'm gonna make this Selesnya tokens because there's a lot of support for that archetype in Arena. So I just threw a bunch of those together, and bam, there's our green white archetype, right? So then we each did that for every guild, and we were like, if there's crossover cards, no worries, because we're gonna need to tinker with the numbers anyways. So we said, I can't remember how many cards it was we said per guild. It was like 15 or something like that.
We did the math, and
yeah, whatever the math is, right?
Playable decks without the lands, right?
Yeah.
I think our assignment was like, you need one land that's unique, that helps, like a non-basic land that helps your strategy. You want one colorless card that helps your strategy, and you want 2 cards that are of the guild, and then an even split of the other 2 colors monocolored.
Right. And this came together, and we had very few overlaps, first of all, which was kind of surprising. And then we just filled in the blanks where we needed some, because we did have some overlaps. And then we had a cube. And then from that moment, you can look at the cube instead of this like color by color thing, guild by guild thing, whatever it is you're doing. And it's not so overwhelming all of a sudden. Now you're like, okay, I don't think this white card is actually that good because it doesn't synergize with any of the other colors, so we'll take that out. And then you can do the drafts at this point and start to play and see like, oh, actually, I thought this would be really good. So like very early on, like we had a green white we had an Enchantress deck going on, and there was a card in green that I was like, this is going to be great in this deck. But then it essentially was a green white card because you never wanted it outside of white. Like if you were playing green, any other color, you never wanted it. If you're playing mono green, you probably didn't really want it. So it's like that card was like sneaky, actually a Selesnya card. Anyway, so these are the things you find out as you're doing it. It's fun. I don't want to I honestly could talk about it for 2 more hours. But anyways, that's going to be it for this vlog. Build a cube. It's really fun. Play some cube. Our Discord, like, that's a place where you can link up with people to draft a cube, play a cube. I don't know when, but I pretty much guarantee pretty soon Sean and I will be like, hey guys, here's our cube. Feel free to draft it and play it whenever you want, and we'll do it too. So
yeah.
Once we've kind of figured out whether or not Kefnet stays in. Anyways, but that's it. It's a lot of fun. It scratches some of the itches that we might not be getting right now as Commander players. So I highly recommend rather that you do it. Thanks for listening. Everyone, thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with another topic or perhaps an interview. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you love what we're doing, consider supporting the show by going to patreon.com/commandersbrew.
And if you want to get any of the cards from our deck list, go to our TCG Player affiliate link below.
That helps us out too. And for a free way to help us out, consider sharing the show with some friends. Like and subscribe, add a comment or 2.
See you later.
Bye.